Thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tep. I'm glad you made it. Today I just wanted to do a quick kind of, high-level discussion. And really, for those of us that are often on YouTube and gaining information or gathering information and learning about things, already service connected, that type of stuff, this is going to be old news for you, right? But the idea here is, look, there's a new veteran every single day. There's somebody new that's getting out of the military every single day, more than one, right? And there's a whole bunch that are getting ready to transition out of the military, 6 months from now. So this type of information is really about us taking care of the future us's, right? So please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff, because all it does is help to make sure that those that are coming behind us have some sort of a trail to follow, right? We are, we're the pathfinders, I guess, right? So we are blazing the trail, and the ones before us were like the recon units, right? So out there trying to make it happen and give us some sort of direction. And now we're blazing that trail a little more, and having that be able to be easily followed for those behind it. Anyway, I'll get off the soapbox. So what I wanted to talk about is filing your claim with the VA, and what does that look like, and what can it result in? You'd be surprised how many people have never filed for anything because, one, they don't think that they actually rate. And I'll tell you a fast story. And this just goes back to, you just never know. And sharing information is very important. I was actually at the VA, right? At the VA Medical Center, and I had to get some x-rays. And sure enough, finally I get called in. I go in and I talk to the x-ray tech guy who was going to be taking the pictures of my knee. And talking with him, and I'm, you ever serve? It's small talk, but it's like, that's kind of at least that's what I always do. I kind of go straight for did you ever serve? Let's look for something that we can connect on. Sure enough, he served in the Navy, and we talked about that for a minute. And then usually for me, within 2 or 3 sentences after oh, awesome, that's great, I served in the whatever, blah, 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 we go back and forth. Then I'm like, you all squared away with the VA, right? Like, you got your claims all done and all that good stuff. So I did that with this guy, and he didn't file anything. We talked for a few more minutes, and he had some kind of major injuries that he had. He fell off of some tall thing that he was, some Navy thing he was working on, and slipped and fell off of it and landed, and it was like, I don't know, like a 2-story fall basically, and jacked himself up, and he never filed. And so he was probably in late 20s, early 30s. And so I talked to him about it and pushed and prodded and hopefully, I don't really know if he ever did, but he seemed gung-ho about it after that. So, I would venture to say he did. So, filing your VA claim has a lot of mystery kind of surrounding what's really available and how do you do it. And it's not the easiest process to just unravel and jump into. What I'll usually tell folks is, look, while you're in, especially those that are still in, so if you're watching this getting ready to transition, there's 3 things that make up a solid claim, a winnable claim with the VA. And that is having a time in service. So you have your DD-214 or DD-214s that create a window of opportunity. Number 2 is you have a diagnosed condition, right? Us self-diagnosing doesn't really mean anything. You actually have to go to a doctor and get diagnosed. Number 3, and with the diagnosis, it should be chronic in nature or have some sort of residual effects, right? It can't just be, I had a cold once. So that's important. It has to be an ongoing issue, something that's got some legs on it there. The third thing is what they call a nexus, and you're going to see nexus thrown around a lot. So nexus and nexus letter are kind of 2 different things. A nexus letter is just an effort to support the nexus. What the nexus means is it's showing the VA that your diagnosed condition essentially manifested in whatever way, right? Either the military caused it or you just came down with it, whatever. Somehow, some way, your condition showed up during your time in service. Now, for those that are just getting ready to transition out, guess what? You're still in. That means anything that you get diagnosed for now is in that window of opportunity. You're still in the military, so the nexus is automatically created. If you get, for example, diagnosed for migraine headaches now, and they're chronic in nature, you get a migraine every week or whatever, or once a month even, now you have a diagnosis while you're in service. That creates the nexus for your diagnosed condition, and that is a service-connectable condition. Which brings me to the point of a lot of people hear the words disability, VA disability compensation, and they get kind of stuck on the word disability and envision somebody who is, basically crippled or missing a limb. And although, yes, those conditions, if service-connected, would be rateable by the VA, that is a small portion of the entire rating schedule. So there's everything that you could pretty much think of that is diagnosable, as long as it's chronic in nature or has residual effects, is going to be service-connectable. So you have to kind of change your mindset and just go, okay, something that's diagnosable that I have that is not going away. I'll give an example here, a couple examples. One I already gave was migraines. Another one would be like GERD, bad heartburn. Number 3 would be something like motor tics. So, somebody who has like a twitch, an uncontrollable twitch, a tic, that is service connectable. Diabetes, arthritis, all these different things are diagnosable, yes, but service connectable. Sleep apnea. So these types of things are important because it's beyond the injury piece. A lot of us lean on, it had to be an injury. I have to somehow show that the military caused this injury to me. Injury. And it's not just injuries is the bottom line, right? It's anything that you could be diagnosed with while you're in service. Now, the problem is a lot of times you don't get seen for it while you're in. So what happens is then you get out of the military, and now you have to kind of build a bridge back to your time in service to satisfy that nexus piece. And I've done videos on nexus, so please watch that if that's your situation. But a couple quick examples of how to overcome that would be, one, if you got diagnosed within 1 year of getting out, that's a good thing because there are some presumptive periods within that 1 year period, or presumptive conditions that you can utilize within that 1 year of getting out is one way. Another way is that if you did a exit health assessment where you self-attested to any sort of conditions, complaining about whatever it is on that self-assessment, that is going to be a way to leverage a nexus. Look, I complained about it while I was in, then later on I got out, I dealt with it, and I got diagnosed later on for that condition. But at least you complained about it while you were in. So that can help you solidify your nexus. Another way would be there's nothing in your military file. You waited over a year. Finally, you went and got diagnosed. Your MOS or your AFSC may be the cause of a certain type of a condition. So if you had migraines and you were working with fuels, there's a chance that your migraines could be due to the fuels. And if you had a doctor, then kind of write that or find some sort of a report or something. Or if you were on a ship that was riddled with asbestos and you have like lung cancer or something like that, that would be a way you could prove that the ship had it and then go from there. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. My suggestion to everybody is always go with an accredited rep unless you really feel competent and confident that you can file the claim appropriately. So with that, once you file your claim for your 10, 15, 20, 30 different conditions, or 5 or 2 or whatever, however many conditions that you're filing, the VA will go through that and then they will see what you are meeting those criteria on, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to set up C and P exams. You may have heard of the VA having exams for folks and them going to these exams. You may even have heard C and P. C and P is compensation and pension exam. And in this exam, usually what they're doing is not trying to diagnose you because you've already provided the diagnosis from a doctor. So why are they going to re-diagnose you, right? Usually what they're trying to do is figure out where you fall on the rating schedule. Most conditions will have an array of different ratings depending on the severity of your specific issues with that condition. So whether, your signs, symptoms, durations, whatever, how bad is it? So that is what they're focusing on in that exam. Now, you do have the ability, and I've done a video on this, the schedule of ratings is online with the VA, and you can find your condition in the schedule of ratings and see exactly what is necessary for each percentage rating that could be allocated for that specific condition. This is an extremely important form or document, the schedule of ratings, because you should read through it and know exactly where you fall, and then you know what exact words the VA is looking for to establish the correct rating for you. In some cases, if you miss one word, you will be dropped from we'll say a 50% down to a 30%, for an example. And that could have a dramatic impact on your overall rating with the VA, so very important. Once the VA is done doing the C&P exams for you, then they'll finally do the compare and contrast with the schedule of ratings, assign the ratings for you, and bam, now you are rated with the VA. If you agree with them all, then great. If you disagree, you can file an appeal. That appeal will give you a few options. You can either do a higher level review, which is just a review of what you've already submitted by somebody who has a little more knowledge than the person previously. Or you could do a supplemental claim, which is bolstering up your claim. Maybe you need to add a little more evidence in your favor, and so you want to do another doctor's visit, get a letter from your doctor, whatever. That would be submitted along with your supplemental claim for that appeal, and then that evidence would then be looked at and considered, and you would be able to revise or potentially get a revised rating from the VA. Or you can push it through to the Board of Appeals and have it seen by a veterans law judge and let them make the decision. So again, every circumstance is different, every situation is different, there's a lot of nuance. This is high-level overview, and it's hard to say which one's the appropriate path for you because each thing's different, right? So just to give a quick numbers for everybody, especially those that are new, a 10 and 20% rating, overall rating, if your overall rating is 10 or 20%, you cannot add a spouse or dependents to your file with the VA. And your pay would be $160. I'm going to leave the change off. $165 at 10%, $327 at 20%. Now, once you go over that and you get to the 30% rating, then what happens is you're able to add your spouse and any dependents. Now, not everybody has a spouse, and not everybody has, a young dependent in which they would be able to add them to for compensation purposes. So I'm just going to go through here as a veteran with a spouse. If you don't have a spouse, it'd be a little bit less. But if you had a spouse, this would be the amount. And then if you had children, it would be a little bit more. So at 30%, it would be $568. 40% overall rating would be $811. 50% rating would be $1,141. 60% rating would be $1,440. And remember that this is with a spouse and no children. Now, if you went to 70%, let's see, I got to find it here. So we did 30 to 60 with no children. And if we go to the 70% rating, let's see what they got. 70% is, if you're still hanging on at this point, geez, it's been 15 minutes. With a spouse, it's $1,804, and 80% is $2,094. 90% is $2,353, and the coveted 100% rating is $3,823. Remember, this is veteran with a spouse. If you have children as well, it would be more. And if you had no spouse, it would be a little less. Now, also remember that this is tax-free money. So if you ever were to disclose this money for qualifying for a mortgage or a car or really anything financially, you could what they call gross it up, or make sure you indicate that it is a tax-free benefit. So grossing up is typically 125% of the amount. So for every $1,000, it's really $1,250. So, if you had $4,000, then it would be $5,000 for a grossed up amount. So with that, I'll go ahead and end it there. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a great one, and sorry for the lengthy video. But again, this is really for the people that are new to this transition in life and filing a VA claim. So really appreciate you. Thanks so much. Have a great one, and we'll see you soon.